Hello everyone, today I'm going to be talking about artificial water and the different kinds of ways that you can make it. So artificial water is being used in terrariums, it's becoming a trend for terrariums, and there's many other modelling projects, just crafty DIYs. So I used to get stuck and wonder, what can I do to make artificial water? So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is resin. So typically for resin, you get a two-part mixture. So you get B and you get A, like this, and then you mix them. Sometimes it's 50-50. You just have to read the instructions and mix accordingly. You can get different types of resin. So this is a pouring resin. So I'd start off by saying that the pros for resin is definitely that it's realistic. So it's the most realistic water that you can do or find. Con would definitely be that it is expensive. Another would be that you need patience, which I struggle with. So you need to typically let each layer, so if you're building up layers, if you want something that's quite deep, you're going to have to build up layers, and each layer you will have to wait 48 hours or 24 hours to cure. Another con would be the fumes. So resins do have a lot of chemicals. You do need to have a lot of ventilation, a lot of safety things on, like a mask and definitely gloves. That being said, you can find some that are non-toxic and low fumes, which is good. And I'm seeing a lot more companies coming out with resins that are easier to use and safer for the environment. The other pro that I can think of is that it is suitable for open or closed terrariums or projects. You can use it in an open terrarium or a closed terrarium. It won't dry out. Another con would definitely be that over time resin can get yellow. So once you've done your project, maybe a year down the line or something, sometimes you will find that the resin, if you've used it for water, the waterbed or the river will start becoming yellow, and obviously that does ruin your whole project. Now the other product that I wanted to talk about is craft water. So these you can find, and it's sort of like resin and gel, and it's usually for floral arrangements. So the pro for craft water for floral arrangements is definitely that you can pour a large layer at once. So there's no waiting for it to cure in layers, just like how you do for resin. You can pour a large amount and all at once and then wait for it to cure. And as it says here, there's no yellowing with this product. The cons would be that it is expensive. It also is chemicals, so fumes. So resin is definitely the most used product for creating artificial water, but I have also tried this realistic water by Woodland Scenics. So the first pro for the realistic water by Woodland Scenics is just as it says. There is no mixing, so you don't have to worry about the two-part thing like you do with resin. Another pro would be that it is non-toxic and it definitely has low fumes. I literally do not have to wear a mask when I'm using this product. One of the cons would be, of course, it is quite expensive. But having said that, it is less expensive than the craft water and the resin. Another thing is you do have to pour it in layers. So just like resin, you need to pour it in layers wait for each layer to cure, so 24 hours to 48 hours, and so you need patience again. That also means that products like resin and the realistic water doesn't go far because you have to keep building layers, and the bottles are quite small and very expensive. And just like the resin and the craft water, a pro is definitely that it is realistic. And again, with the resin, craft water and the woodland scenic product, you can use it for open or closed terrariums. So it's not going to dry out, it's not going to shrink or anything like that. Now, with the woodland scenics, there is another product that I sometimes use, which is called Water Effects. And a tip of mine is do not bother buying this because I bought it for £12.45. It is expensive and it's not something that you create layers of water. This is just for the detailing, so on waterfalls or rippling effects, things like that. And my tip and trick or secret to share with you all is save your money and don't buy it because you can use Mud Podge or PVA to create the same effect. Now, realistic water is becoming something that people are looking for more, and because of that, there's more products coming out. So I've just purchased this. I haven't tried it yet, and I will, if you want to know how it turns out, just let me know in the comments and I can do a small video for that. But this was definitely expensive. It was £10 and the size is pretty small, 125 ml. So I'm not sure how it's going to come out and I'm not sure if it's worth the money. So the fourth thing for creating artificial water for your crafts, your modeling, your terrariums, whatever it is clear gel candle. So this is definitely one of my secrets. It's something that I have been keeping a little bit to myself, but recently at Christmas I did upload a DIY and I shared that tip and trick with you all, so let me just show you what I'm talking about. So this was a project that I made at Christmas and it is on my channel if you want to see how I made it. I used clear candle gel for this and it turned out quite nice. I was quite happy with it because it is definitely a lot cheaper than all of these, you know, other types of making realistic water. So the pros would be that it's definitely more affordable compared to the resin, the craft water and woodland scenics. Another would be that you can use it in open or closed bowls, so it won't dry out, it's not going to shrink, it's not going to yellow or anything like that. So again, as just mentioned, there is no yellowing. There's no mixing. There's no waiting for cure time. And it's also safe, so there's no fumes. Another pro is that it works like resin, so if you wanted to put you know, stones or little plants mixed in with the water, then you can do that. You would just put it in and then put a layer of candle wax over it again. So as you can see so far, the clear gel has a lot more pros compared to all our other artificial waters that we've spoken about. So the only con that I can think of is that it is a little bit tricky pouring the gel into like a bowl like this, and you'll probably see that in the DIY tutorial video that I have made for this project. So we had to sort of create a barrier by sticking tape from here to here so that it kind of can pour into this half of the container. And obviously because it's hot, you do have a small amount of working time before it starts to set. So we'll say tricky to pour and also small working time. So the fifth type of artificial water is another trick of mine that I somehow found out, and it's working very well for me. And that would be blue hair gel. And this is an example of one of the projects that I've made using blue hair gel for artificial water. Again, I've done a DIY tutorial for this, so if you'd like to see how to make it, then do check that out. So with the blue hair gel, it's definitely safe to use. I mean, this project is made for children, so it is really safe to use. There's definitely no yellowing over time, no cure time. It's definitely cheap. I got a whole big tube of blue hair gel for £1, so that's $1, and you can find it in so many shops as well. And that's another pro, that it's readily available. You might even have some at home. If not, it's definitely going to be found really easy. Again, you can embed things inside, just as I have here. So you can have stones, you can have plants, you can have sea creatures like this. There is no mixing involved. You can just pour as much as you want in one whole layer. I would also say it is pretty realistic. Now the only con that I have for blue hair gel is that you can't use it in an open jar or container, and that's because it does need the lid, otherwise it's just going to dry out. So that's definitely it is a big con, because that means you can only use it in closed jars. Another thing that I use to make artificial water is slime. Okay, so the pros for using slime as artificial water is definitely that it's cheap, it's safe, so children can use slime for artificial water. There's no yellowing, no cure time, you don't need to build up in layers. There's no mixing two parts like there is with resin. You can put things inside it, so if you wanted to put stones in or anything like that, you can just put this over it. And I would say it's also quite realistic. Obviously, if you're looking for something super realistic for modeling or things like that, then you will have to just be sticking with resin. So the cons is that you do generally get a very small quantity. So I bought this for £1 or $1, and it was from China. And this was another tub that I've almost finished using, but as you can see, it's really a small amount that you get. But a lot of people make slimes at home, so that is an option. And the other biggest con is that you can't use it in an open bowl. So if you put this in a bowl, it's just going to dry up. So if you're going to be creating any sort of projects or models and you're going to use slime as your artificial water, then you're going to need to make sure that it is a bowl that's closed or a jar that's closed, and it will be completely fine then. So the seventh way and the last way to make artificial water, if you like, is UV resin. So I brought this from Wish or from China, and the pros is definitely that you have quick cure time because you use a UV lamp, and typically you can cure something in 5 minutes or less, and it's very realistic. It is resin after all. It's just a faster way to cure, and it's a lot cheaper. There is no need to do two-part mixing, which is why I absolutely love UV resin. There's no yellowing, and you can use it in open and closed bowls or models. It won't shrink or dry out, and there's no need to build up in layers. You can also embed items in there, so little pebbles or sand or plants or things like that. Now the main thing that I don't like about using UV resin is that it can only cover small areas. So if I'm creating like a very small area of water, then UV resin is quite good for the project, but if it's anything bigger, then I wouldn't be using UV resin. And as you can see, it is really small. Generally the bottles that you get for UV resin are quite small. You can find bigger ones than these, but they are still a lot smaller than the typical bottles of normal resin. And I will also say that there are fumes. It is a lot less than normal resin, so that is a good thing. So if you're a child or you just want a few more options, these aren't going to be realistic, but if you're doing a school project or something like that, these are your options. So blue felt. Of course, you can just paint it blue. There's also blue stones. This project here, all I've done is paint it blue. And for this project here, I've used the blue stones. And this is felt, so you just cut it to the shape that you want it and place it, and you can use that as artificial water. So when you're doing blue paint for water, you can just paint it blue and leave it. But if you want to make it a little bit more realistic, what I would advise is using Mod Podge or PVA, a thin layer just over your paint, and that will make it look glossy and just make it a little bit more realistic. You can also do that with pebbles. So if you have a few stones next to your artificial water, just paint them with Mod Podge or PVA glue, and it will look as if the water has, you know, gone over the stones, and it looks a lot more realistic and just a lot more aesthetically pleasing. Okay, so it's been a very informative video. I hope that you stuck around. If you have, a big pat on the back for you, because there has been so much information to take in, and thank you for still watching. But if I was to tell you what I use personally, I would stick with using blue hair gel, slime, UV resin, and the candle gel. So if I'm making something where I want a lot of water like I have here, and I want it to be in an open environment where there's no lid, and I want to make sure it doesn't shrink or dry up, then I will be using the clear gel. And if I was to be using a project where I want it to look quite realistic and it's in an open bowl, but I'm not having to use a massive amount or to cover a big surface, then I would use UV resin. And if it's in a closed jar or a closed environment, then I will be using blue hair gel, most likely over slime, only because I can't get that much slime, and it's way cheaper for me to just get this for £1 or $1 compared to getting this for £1 or $1. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope that you've found it informative and that you've learned something with me. And I hope that you are enjoying this series of tips, tricks and secrets, and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching. Bye.